Let's get started. So the topic of today, of course, is how to build a predictable sales system for your consulting business. So do any of these sound familiar? A lot of you are in the early stages of your consulting business. Some I know are even starting their businesses right now. So let me know if any of these are familiar. You may have a question. Should I stick with part-time consulting or go all in? What if I don't get clients, right? It's definitely a question that I had back in the day. Let's circle back in 6 months. Some of your clients may say that. They may buy time, you may have a meeting, and you may think that you're going to close the sale, but they say, you know what, let's just circle back in 6 months. We've exhausted our budget, can't do it now. It's a very common objection. We don't have a budget for this. I like what you're saying, but not right now. We already have a consultant for this. Again, pretty common. Somebody either they may have a consultant, an external consultant, or they may simply be doing it themselves in-house with internal resources. Let me think about it. That's a big one. Let me think about it, and then I'll get back to you. And then the final one, which is my least favorite of all, is the no reply. You get ghosted. You have a good conversation. You feel there's a good conversation. There are some follow-ups that are agreed upon, but then when you reach back out to them, there's no reply. It happens. It happens to me as well, right? This is not something that is alien to people who've been doing this for a long time. And I've been doing this for a long time, but it happens. This is the nature of buying today, especially with communication on email and chat and social media. It's easy to simply not reply, but it happens, right? So these are some of the things that consultants go through. Type in the chat. Let me know if these are familiar to you. So here's the thing. If you sell anything, it is natural to doubt yourself, face rejection. The key is not to feel discouraged and have a foolproof plan to land your next client and the next one after that. This is the holy grail of running a business and wanting to build a profitable business, right? You face rejection, and that not sometimes, very often gives you doubts, right? I see this in my business as well, where, I've been doing this for a long time, been selling for a long time, but I'll see a few weeks go by and there's no sales, or there's lots of conversation and there's nothing closing. And then you'll start doubting yourself, like, okay, what is wrong with my process? What is wrong with what I'm doing? Is this not working anymore? Has the market shifted? Does anybody not need this service anymore? And it's natural to start doubting. Then you'll suddenly see that, after a point, you'll get like 3 sales in 2 weeks, right? It's pretty common for that to happen. Of course, you've got to set your business up the right way, and you got to have the right systems, which is what we're going to be talking about today. But when there's a big lull in your business, it's natural to doubt yourself and face rejection. But what you want to be doing is, first of all, ensure that you have the right system in place that allows your consulting business to keep chugging along and keep taking action. Predictability. You need a sales system that predictably brings you clients when you want them, right? And like I said, I gave you an example right now, just a moment ago. Predictability is hard. Sometimes you may go weeks without closing something. So you really can't predict exactly when your clients are going to buy and when they're going to give you business, when your prospects rather are going to give you business, and when they're going to be ready. You can't predict that. It's not in your control, but you can do what it takes to try and build a predictable system so that you at least come close to predictability. If you don't close this month, then you may close next month, and you may close 2 next month, right? So that what you want to do is control the controllables. You do what you can and what is in your control to build a system that is as reliable as it can be to ensure that you get clients, right? The rest is up to chance because that's not in your control. When a person says yes to you is not fully in your control, but what is in your control is what you can do to prepare and what you can do in front of you to ensure that you increase the likelihood of landing new clients. So some of you have been coming to these sessions. You may know my background. I see a few new faces. I'll tell you very quickly a little bit about myself. I am a former management consultant focused on strategic planning. I ran a firm called Springboarders here in Toronto for about 10 years. Started it in 2009. I've sold over 200 consulting engagements in my consulting career, all across the board, from small business to mid-sized business to large businesses, Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 500 companies, nonprofits, government agencies, and so on. And what I do now is I help management consulting business owners and business consultants. You may be strategy consultants, HR consultants, operations, sales, marketing. If you're selling into organizations, I help you build a sales pipeline because that's what I've been through. I've walked a mile in your shoes, and I help you grow your pipeline and consistently add new clients to your business. Most of the people I work with, most of the consultants that I help, they are former consultants at other consulting firms, popular consulting firms like Boston Consulting Group, Deloitte, Accenture, KPMG, Booz Allen, et cetera, et cetera. They now run their own businesses, consulting businesses, and they come to me for help to build their sales pipeline. And I work with other consultants as well who have not been in consulting before, but come from industry. They worked several years in a particular function or an industry, and now they want to strike out on their own and start their consulting businesses. Okay, so those are the people I help. Right, so what are you going to learn today? Just bear with me. There's this Zoom bar that is in front of me, and I want to try and hide it. Okay, it hasn't gone, but I'll make do anyway. So the three things in order to build a predictable sales system for your consulting business, that's the first thing that we'll be learning today. The biggest mistake consultants make that leads to lost sales and profits, a step-by-step method of seeking referrals, leading to conversations with potential clients, and finally, a practical framework to create and distribute content that attracts new sales opportunities. So let's start off with the three things you need to build a predictable sales system, right? So, and this is what I train consultants on and coach consultants on. So I'll be sharing that with you on one slide. So the first thing you need to build a predictable system and land clients consistently is what I call an irresistible offer. You may have heard that term before. Different people look at it differently, but what an irresistible offer is starts off with being very clear on who your high value market segment is or niche is, and understanding, when these clients want to buy, not when, but what triggers a search for a consultant, and understanding when these organizations typically have problems that an external advisor like you can solve, right? Being very clear on who the buyers are, what the buying process is, and what triggers a buying instance, and then following that up with creating an offer or creating a solution to that individual or that client's or that buyer or organization's problem in a compelling way and communicating that offer to the market in ways that allows them to sit up, take notice, and want to have a conversation with you. You see, for those of you who want the recording of this session who are, with me live here today, I'll be sharing details of my community, which is called Consulting Growth Hub. All of these sessions that I do are are in that community. So you don't have to take notes. I'd like you to be here present with me, just listening. You'll have access to the recording later on, where that's if you choose to join the community. Okay, so that's what I call an irresistible offering. Number two is having a system to generate referrals and leads, a lead generation system, right? So what really works in our industry today, we're a professional services. Consulting is a very relationship-based game. It's a very face-to-face, high-touch, high-trust game. So you need to have a lead generation system that aligns with how buyers buy. Okay, we'll get into it a little bit more. But number three is a repeatable sales process. Once you get your leads and sales opportunities, how do you convert them from a warm prospect to a paying client? Typically, consultants just wing it. They're highly technical. They know the subject. They can talk a lot about the subject that they're experts at. Typically, consultants have a challenge with number two. They think they have a challenge with number two, but typically the challenge is number one, but they don't know that mostly. They feel that they have a challenge with getting in front of the right people, right? And then they wing number three, which is the sales process, just by talking about the subject, and they might land a client or two, right? But a repeatable sales process, what it does is when you learn how to do it the right way, in a consultative way, what you end up doing is you build value into the conversation. You end up building trust with the prospect or the buyer in front of you. You end up, possibly even increasing your fees because of the way you've conducted that discussion and so on. So consultants may feel that they don't need number three, but it's paramount. It's super important. But in any case, I digress. What I wanted to show you is the three things that you need in order to build a predictable system. That's the irresistible offering, a lead generation system, and a repeatable sales process. Okay, we'll come back to this slide a little later. But first, I want to talk about the biggest mistake consultants make that leads to a loss of sales and profits. And that mistake is that they don't tend to their own business as they tend to a client's business. Now, for those of you, listening to me live, type in the chat, let me know, right? If you have a client, right? If you've ever noticed yourself paying a lot of attention to your client's business and caring about your client's businesses, but not tending to your business as if it were a client's business, right? And not giving it enough attention because, your client's paying the bills. You really want to do a good job. You, you go all out and ensure that your client gets what they're paying for, and you care more about your client's business, but you don't care as much. You would want to take care as much, but you simply don't prioritize and caring about your own business and putting together systems and processes in place to ensure that your business grows and thrives. Okay. So if that's familiar, type in the chat and let me know. So then what does it mean to tend to your business like you to tend to a client's business? What specifically do I mean by that? It's very simple. If you ask me, you care more. That's what it means. You care about your business a lot more as if it were a client. If your business were a client, how would you treat it? you wouldn't be, I mean, I certainly was. I was very careless with my business. I didn't have a system. I didn't have a process. I didn't, talk to people who knew how to run a consulting business and so on. Not that I didn't want to, I just didn't prioritize it because I was, running like my like a chicken with its head cut off, because I had client engagements and deadline driven engagements that I prioritized more, right? So it's very understandable if that you're in the same place. So you want to organize yourself better so you create a system to produce predictable results, as predictable as possible, as I mentioned before. So again, I want to show you the slide, the three things that you need to build a predictable system. Number one is your irresistible offer, a lead generation system, and a repeatable sales process. Now, these are all big subjects. So as I promised you today, I'm going to be focusing on number two, the lead generation system, specifically one that is relevant to our type of business, consulting businesses, and what works in our business today. So I'll focus on that, and hopefully you will get value out of it. Type in the chat. Let me know if this is resonating. I'm going to try once again to remove the video panel that is in front of me, which is disrupting, at least for me, the obstructing the screen rather. Does anybody know how to do this? Like if you're on Zoom, how do you? Oh, I think I got it. Hide floating meeting controls. Okay, I got it. Anyway, sorry about that. Let's get on right back into our session. So, as I said, I'm going to focus on number two, which is a repeatable lead generation system for your consulting business. So before I get into the specifics, let me talk about the consulting growth model. And again, this is based on my observation and experience. As I mentioned to you, I've been in consulting a long time. I started working in the consulting industry 2006 and started my own firm in 2009. And this is what I've observed about how consulting businesses grow. Okay, so any consultant or expert will start off with your expertise, right? You have that's all you have. You have your expertise and you have an idea, and you say, you know what, I'm going to use this expertise and help clients to solve a specific problem. And that's how a consulting business idea is born. And once you have expertise, you go out seeking your relationships, right? Because consulting, as I said, is a very relationship-based game. And you go out and you reach out to your network, or you build new relationships to find new opportunities. And then there's a third thing. Once you you know how to like land new referrals and introductions using your relationships, there's one more thing that kind of supercharges your consulting business, and that's thought leadership, which is nothing but creating content. In back in the day, and even now, it's books, writing books, presenting at seminars, speaking engagements, writing articles in relevant publications, and so on. So expertise, relationships, and thought leadership. Like there are a lot of consulting firms that only land new business through relationships and referrals. Like even today, right? There are lots of firms that are nice and boutique, even either, independent, or, you have a few people working with you and you only get land clients through referrals and your existing relationships. And that's fine if that's how you want to grow your business. But if you want to grow your business further, and if relationships are simply, not bringing you the types or the kinds of leads that you want, or the number of leads that you want, then you go into thought leadership, right? You share your knowledge with the outside world or with your audience, and build new relationships and land new clients. So when these three things come together in any consulting business, that's when you get into, the real growth zone, right? As I said, you can still grow through relationships, but when you add thought leadership to the mix, you can really build a more predictable system and get into that zone of growth. Think about the best consultants that the management consultants and business consultants. I bet you that they have some kind of thought leadership that has helped them grow their businesses. Like, think about folks like Peter Drucker. I'm talking about the real giants here now. Tom Peters, Michael Porter, Clayton Christensen, Jim Collins, and countless others, right? These folks are not just authors, but they had very successful consulting businesses at the back end. And the best of the best companies wanted to get these folks in their businesses and paid them hundreds of thousands of dollars to consult with them and to help solve their problems. I know there are some authors and some future authors in this audience, the folks that are writing a book currently. For example, Shahid, who's here, he's got decades of expertise, and he's currently writing a book on his field. And there may be others as well, right? So this is a very common and very effective model of reaching out, or getting your name out there and getting people to know you, right? So what happens as a thought leader, right? You get into this virtuous cycle. You start with your books or your seminars and your articles or whatever, or just you start with your book, right? You teach and you educate people about a specific subject. That brings you authority. People look at you and say, this person is highly knowledgeable because he's written a book. And authority will then help you do more content in the form of seminars, lectures, articles, interviews, and so on. And that leads you to new relationships. You get new relations through that. And those new relationships will lead you to new clients, right? Because as I said, our consulting business is a very relationship-based business. And then those new clients will get you back in the field again and get you new types of engagements. You'll learn about new problems in the industry, and that will again feed your subject matter expertise and help you write more books and teach more. So that's why you see authors, they don't stop with one book. They just have more and more ideas. And the reason they get more and more ideas for their books is because they're in the field. They're working with actual companies, right? That's what gives you more information. And, you get into that virtuous cycle, right? So this is a long-term game, yes, but it's important. If you really want to differentiate yourself, if you really want to stand out from the competition, you want to put yourself out there and share your knowledge and expertise, right? And build authority and reap all of these benefits. But here's the thing: do you have to write a book today? I would say if you can, definitely go for it, because there's so much value in being an author and writing a book. There's so much respect that you get when you're a published author, right? But do you have to start off that way? Not necessarily, because you have lots of options today to start creating content and getting your name out there and being useful to people, right? You can do webinars just like this one. This is what I do. I create a lot of content, and webinars and these sessions are simply one of them, right? I do this so that I'm able to share my knowledge. I'm able to attract a few people to come and listen to these webinars, and potentially lots of others who listen to the recording and get to know me, right? Podcasts, panel discussions, white papers, just a simple text posts on your social profile like LinkedIn, content threads on platforms like Twitter, video interviews, right? You don't need permission anymore from anybody to get on stage, because you can get on stage if you want, whenever you want, right? You're having a LinkedIn account and posting content there, that is your stage. LinkedIn can be your conference, it could be your trade show, it could be your trade publication, it could be your platform for speaking at a chamber of commerce or whatever, which was in the early days you needed to get permission to get on a stage, right? If you want to get into specific organizations, yes, you do need permission, but you don't need permission to share content like this online. Okay, there's no limit to your creativity as well. So this is a huge part of creating that predictable system, because the more consistent you are in creating this content, at the back end, what that does is it allows people to get to know you and then come to you on a regular basis. You see, it does take work. It's not easy, but it is simple, right? There's a difference between easy and simple. It does take work, but then when you have a process and a system behind it, it makes things simpler. So let's talk about the first part of building a repeatable lead generation process, right? I call it referrals 2.0. In a consulting business, I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat. Okay, looks like everything's okay. So in a consulting business, as I mentioned to you, referrals are huge. Like when you do a client engagement, if you do the engagement well, you can ask your client for a referral to a few people that they would know. If you're starting out in a consulting business, you reach out to your network or people that you worked with in the past, a past colleague, for example, a past boss, for example, and reach out and ask for referrals. That's how I got started. When I got started in consulting, I just created my offering as best as I could, and I simply emailed everybody I knew, right? And I got a few referrals from there. That's how my business started. So referrals are important, but what we do, because we get so busy with engagements and just because how busy we are in life, we don't create a system around it, right? We do it when we want it, and when one of our engagements or projects ramps down, and then we realize we need another client, and we start scrambling and pounding the pavement and start getting looking for new referrals. But we don't do it consistently. We don't create a system around it. But that's what you should do. You want to create a system around it, because if you want to create a predictable pipeline of leads, then you need to have a system for generating referrals, which is one of the best ways to land new clients in consulting. Now, typically what we do, and this is, I used to do this as well, like once we completed a client engagement, or even if you're starting out, what we do is we go out and we tell people, hey, I've started this business. If you know anybody, let me know. I would appreciate it. And then we put the onus on giving the referral on our contact, and let them think of who they know, so that we can benefit, so that we can then follow up. And then we wait. We tell people about it, and then we wait. And sometimes if we're lucky, we get a referral or two. But more often than not, people are just busy. Your contacts are busy. They may forget about it, and they may not. It may not strike them that, hey, you know what? I know this person. Maybe I should link them up. That doesn't happen a lot, unless you're persistent and you keep chasing people, and you don't want to keep chasing people. That's one of the other things. That's one of the other reasons why consultants who don't know business development and don't know sales, they kind of don't create a system around this, because they don't like chasing people, and they don't like interrupting people. And asking for referrals, it feels like interrupting. Excuse me. It feels like you're interrupting people, and then you stop doing it, and then you don't build your pipeline. So here's what I suggest. Here's what how I advise my clients to seek out referrals. And like I said, this is what I call referrals 2.0. So what you do is, I have a script on the screen for the benefit of those who are listening to the audio. I'm going to read it. So here's how you ask for referrals. You say, Mr. Client, or the name of the client, I'm so glad we've been able to solve this problem for you and your company, and name the problem. It was such a pleasure working with you and the rest of the team. I'm not sure if I've told you this before, but the way I've typically grown my business has been from warm introductions from my happy clients. I happen to notice you're connected to 6 people on LinkedIn that I'd love to meet. Are you available for a short call to discuss this? Now, notice I said that I noticed that you've connected to 6 people on LinkedIn that I'd love to meet, right? So what you got to do is you've got to do the homework. If you go to that LinkedIn profile, almost always, 80% of the time, you can see your connections if you're connected with them, right? And if you see who they're connected to, you can go through each of those connections and see if you'd like to meet any of them. And there's a reason, I say 6 people and not 1 or 2 people, right? You want to make a list of 6 to 8 people and then go out and seek a meeting with your contacts, because on LinkedIn, unfortunately, not everyone will know their contacts. People just connect with people. So if out of those 6 or 8 people, your contact personally knows 1 or 2, that itself could be huge. And if they could kind of connect you with them, that would be huge. Imagine if you do this with, 30 or 40 contacts that right? That itself will help you create a pipeline of 30 to 60 people, right? Again, it takes work, but you are controlling what you can control, and you're going to them with people with names of people that they could potentially connect you with, right? Sometimes you won't be able to see connections of your connections. And in those cases, you simply want to get on a call with your contact, with your connection, and then talk about it. Talk about, who else they could connect you with. But in the majority of the situations, you'll be able to see who they're connected to. Okay. So then you get them on a call. It's always get your contacts on a call, because if you just say that, hey, you know what, here are these 6 names, please connect me with whoever they're going to forget about it, right? You want to get them on a 20-minute call, and these are folks that you know really well, right? Get them on a call and say, hey, you know what, this is my business. Here's what here are the types of clients I'm looking at, and I noticed that there are 6 to 8 names that I'd love to run past you. Run each name by your contact, right? The ones that they know, ask for an introduction. Like, can you introduce me via email to this individual, right? Maybe that's 1 or 2 people out of the 6 to 8 list. For those that they don't know, ask them if you can use their name to connect with these people on LinkedIn. You see, so let's say there are 8 people, and our 8 people, your contacts know 2 people, and you get an introduction. The other 6 people, ask them permission that I'm going to use your name, Bob, and connect with these other folks, and tell them that, look, Bob and I were talking, your name came up, and would you like to connect? So that way, connecting with random people on LinkedIn is more personal, right? So I'm going to move on for the sake of time. But again, like all of this, for those of you listening to this live, all of this is available on the recording. So go ahead and join the community and check that out. I'll send you details in a bit. Right. So that's the part about referrals. Now, what I want to talk about is creating and distributing content that attracts sales opportunities. I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat just to see if there are any questions. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat, because I'll take a question or two in the end in case there are any clarifications. Okay. So let's talk about creating and distributing content that attracts sales opportunities. This is my favorite part. This is one of my favorite slides of all time. This is from a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Very good book on sales. If you haven't read it, check it out. Now, what this pyramid that you're looking at signifies is this is a buying journey, right? And these are buying phases of any market. If you look at any market, any buying market, like, if you're selling to pharmaceutical companies, or you're selling to, IT companies or whatever, any market, anybody that is ever in the market, buys your products or services, or solutions, would fit into this pyramid, right? If you look at the colors of the pyramid, the bottom 30%, these are folks that they know that they're not interested in purchasing your service because they probably are using an alternative, or they are, they've just purchased a similar service before. I'll give you an example. Let's say, you're looking at the market for car buyers, people that are buying cars. I'm sure everyone in this audience has bought a car before, but you're a car buyer, but you're not always in the market for buying cars, right? Sometimes you're in that bottom 30%. You know that you aren't interested. Maybe you bought a car like three or 4 months ago. You don't want to buy another car anymore for the foreseeable future. So that's 30% of the market. You're not interested. Then you have the next 30% that think they're not interested, right? Some people may think that, I'm okay with riding the subway, or I'm okay with taking Ubers. I don't need to buy a car. They think they're not interested. They've rationalized in their own head that they don't need a new car. Okay, that's 30% of the market. Then you have the other 30%. They're not thinking about it right now. They may realize that yes, I may need a new car, but now they're grappling with other priorities. They've got this other project that they're doing. They're sending their kid to college, or they're working on that, so they don't want to spend on a new car or whatnot. But they may be aware that at some point in the near future they may need a car, but they're not thinking about it because they've got competing priorities. Okay, then you got this 7% on top that they're open to buying, but they're not looking right now. You see, they've realized that they need a new car. They're thinking about it. They're they're researching it. Maybe they're talking to their friends about cars. They're looking at YouTube. At some point they'll get to it, but they're not looking right now. But they know that they've got the problem and they may need to find a solution fast. Then you got this 3% right on top. 3% of buyers in any market, they're ready to purchase. These are the folks that are going to car dealerships and test driving cars. They're comparing specs that they get from dealerships. They're going to YouTube and they're looking at reviews, right? They got the checkbooks out and they're ready to buy. In any market, you can see this pattern play out. Not everybody that you sell to is ready to buy right now. 3% or 3 to 5% is ready to buy right now, but you got 95 to 97% of the market that isn't ready to buy right now. You've got to know this. As a salesperson selling your solutions, you've got to know this. When you get ghosted, when you get rejected, when you get, let me think about it or whatnot, you're dealing with the 97%. You're not dealing with the 3%. That big chunk, that 97% of the market, are not ready today, but they may be ready tomorrow or sometime in the near future. So any marketing that you do has to cater to that 97% as well and prime them into buying when they're ready to buy. Is it making sense? It's a very important concept in sales. And if you understand this, when you go out there, you'll be able to, see patterns. Right? If somebody says, no, I just hired a consultant, you can say, you know what? This person is in the bottom 30%. They're not going to hire another consultant for a long time. So once you understand this, then you'll realize that in order for you to be top of mind, in order for your buyers to think about you when they're in that 3%, at some point they'll come to that 3%. When they're in that 3%, you want to ensure that they think of you. Okay, that's why content is important. Now, I'll tell you very quickly, consulting is not usually budgeted for. It's viewed as a nice to have. It's not viewed as a must have, and it's regarded with suspicion. I don't like consultants. this exacerbates our problem as consulting business owners, because consulting is not like, my printer is broken, I definitely need a new printer. It's not budgeted for. It's not, people don't view it as, I need this. So that's why as consultants, you need to be able to know how to sell, and sell ethically, and sell in a way that builds trust, and it builds a relationship, and also sell in a way that makes people think of you when they have a problem. Is it making sense? Just want to quickly look at the comments. Let me know if this is making sense for you, because it's an important concept. Thank you, Dagmara. Okay, let me get back to it because we've got just a few minutes left, and I want to ensure that we complete this. So how do you create content that attracts new sales opportunities? That's the question, right? You know that creating content and thought leadership is important, but how do you create content that attracts new sales opportunities? Here's the thing. You build a case for change. You see, you want to talk to that 97%, and they're in various stages of the business, or the various stages of the buying process. So you want to create a case for change, also because consulting is not budgeted for. People are not looking, people don't wake up every morning. Executives don't wake up every morning and say, you know what? I wish I meet a great consultant today because I'm looking for a consultant. That's not how it works. They're thinking about their problem. They're thinking about how badly it's affecting them, but they're not looking for a consultant. Typically, I'm generalizing here, right? Typically. But if your printer is broken, they're going to say, you know what, I want to buy a new printer, right? But if they have a business problem, they're thinking that, you know what, how do I solve this with the current team that I have? What do I do? Like, do I buy software? What do I do? They're typically not thinking of, let's get a consulting firm in. Yes, there are some progressive buyers that like working with consultants, but not all of them, not that all of the 97% of the market. A big chunk of the market, as you see, 30%, they think they're not even interested. They think they don't need external advisors such as you, because they think that, whatever they're doing right now, they're getting the job done. I'm okay with this. Even though it may be broken, the process may be broken, they think that this is the way to solve it, and I don't need an external consultant. So as content creators, what you should be doing is building a case for change. You should be in front of them and saying, this is why you need to think about the problem differently. This is why you need someone with a set of eyes from the outside, because you folks are looking at the problem, not looking at the problem in the way you should be, or not looking at the problem in the way that is new in the marketplace, right? So you should be building a case for change. How do you build a case for change? I can hear you asking. Here's how you do it. This is a 9-step strategic narrative framework to challenge buyers' thinking and build a case for change. Let's get right into it. Hang on a second, folks. I'm just trying to manipulate Zoom again. So here's how you build a case for change. In your content, I'm not going to talk about content post frameworks and video scripts and frameworks. I'm going to be talking about strategy. However you create content, wherever you create content, whether it's on LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever, right? You want to be creating a demand for yourselves. You want to be creating a case for change. And here's how you do it. The first thing you do is you want to ensure that you are very clear about who your ideal client is, the type of organization, and the type and your buyer avatar. Okay. I've talked at length about this in my other sessions, which are available in Consulting Growth Hub. I'll put that community link in the chat. So go ahead and check out those videos. You want to ensure that you're talking about your buyer's present pains. What are they currently going through? What kind of pains and problems are they going through right now? And how is that showing up in their life? So if you're selling a car, for example, right? You use the car example. If a buyer, if you know most of your buyers are not thinking of buying a car, you want to ensure that you change the conversation and say that, here's how here's the cost benefit analysis of taking an Uber or taking the subway versus buying a car, and what the result is. And you can be, however you want to, propose that buying a car is much better for that prospect situation. Talk about it, right? Let's say you're a IT consultant, and you build, or let's say you do digital transformation. I know a couple of you do digital transformations here. Let's say you're a digital transformation consultant, and you talk about how using manual paper processes and using legacy software is hurting the business. And here's how it affects your business. You don't have visibility of data, et cetera, and whatnot. Those are your pains. So you want to ensure that that you're talking about your clients' pains, because they know that you get it, right? People connect with people who get them. So you want to ensure that you talk about, you tell your audience that you know what they're going through. That's number one. It's basic. Then you want to talk about their dream outcomes. What do you know about their business, and what do you know about what their dream outcomes are? Like, if you know your market, if you know your buyers, then you know where they want to go and what changes they want to make in their business. So you want to be very clear about that in your content. What is stopping them from achieving their dream outcome? What are the root causes? Talk about the root causes. Like, they're currently in a situation right now. They want to go to this dream outcome. What is stopping them? Talk about that, because sometimes they may have blind spots, but you're the expert. So you tell them through your content what is stopping them, and here's how they can shift their thinking. Options available they don't like. What are the options that they're thinking of to solve the problem? They'll use an internal resource, right? Consultants use an internal resource. They want to get things done. They want to do things in-house DIY. What's the problem with that? Talk about that. Those are the options. What else have they tried? Have they tried to, fix this with, a quick fix, like, buying a piece of software to solve the problem? And have they kind of, been burned before by doing that? Talk about that, because then they'll resonate. Yes, you know what? I did this other thing to try and solve this problem, but that didn't work. And so then when they read you talking about all those things, they'll immediately resonate with it, and they'll think that you're the expert. You're an expert. You see? And here's the other thing. This is really powerful. What are they fed up with? What have they tried before? What do they know doesn't work? And what do they not like doing? Right? For example, if you're a strategy consultant, and you're serving large organizations. Large organizations have hired the big three consulting firms, let's say a McKinsey or a BCG or whatnot. A lot of executives are forced to hire these firms because somebody the higher ups want them or whatnot, and they don't like the work that these firms do, because they don't give them, they don't kind of implement. They give them the strategy, do a lot of workshops. They give them huge documents to put on the shelf. And those documents gather dust on the shelves. And a lot of executives don't like big consultants coming in. So when you talk about that, they'll resonate with it, right? If you're a strategy consultant, and they'll say that, here's how a smaller firm or an independent firm will help you implement, not just strategize. So you want to weave all that stuff in to your content, because again, the purpose of all this is to build a case for change. You want your prospects to start thinking about how to solve the problem, and of course, by hiring you, right? That's what you're trying to drive home the point. why your solution works and why it's different. We just talked about that. Like, why is your solution better than a big three or a large consulting firm? How is that different? What future pain will they miss out on if they do nothing? A lot of prospects are sitting and they're not doing anything. They don't want to solve the problem. They know they have a problem, but they're not thinking ahead about the consequences of the status quo and not doing anything about it. But you want to introduce that. You want to say, hey, if you do nothing about this problem and just sit on it or just do a DIY or use your internal resource, here's what you're missing out on, or here's what the consequences are, right? If you're a risk management professional, a consultant, and you know that certain companies are not taking their risk management processes seriously, you can say, hey, you know what? Here are the regulatory changes that could come in and bite you later on if these risk management processes are not in place. So you're showing them that there are consequences that they may face if they do nothing. Let's talk about the final thing, future opportunities. What future opportunities will they miss out on if they do nothing? These are opportunity costs, right? If you don't do X, perhaps your two competitors that are right in your heels will capture market share. Here's what's going to happen. Or here are these other new companies. If you're a bank, for example, and you don't take digital transformation or fintech seriously, then these new fintech companies are going to simply steal market share away from you, right? And that's an opportunity. You're going to lose market share, and you're going to lose the opportunity to transform your organization from a technology perspective, stuff like that. So again, you want to weave all of this in and create a narrative where you build a case for change, because again, consulting is not budgeted for. Consulting is a nice to have. It's not a must have, right? And you want to ensure that your buyers see you as a must have. Now, I know I have a couple of minutes. I want to ensure that we end on time, because a lot of you may have other places to go to. So creating content is one thing, but how do you distribute it far and wide? Okay, you do it by writing books, articles, and social, right? This is very obvious, but it's important, right? You don't have to write books. You can start with writing an article. You can start with writing something on your social. I know tons of consultants, like 90% of them, if I could eyeball, don't share anything. They have a social media account, but they don't share their knowledge, right? And that's just shooting themselves in the foot. Or they share random stuff, right? Nothing to do with. They don't have a narrative. They don't have a strategic narrative that is designed to create change in their buyers' heads. They just share random things, right? But that should change. You want to speak more. Consultants, buyers want to see you. They want to hear your voice, because they know that they're going to be working with you directly. So they want to know how you speak, how you communicate, how you share ideas. You want to build a learning community as well, right? And I'll share a little bit about what that means. I mean, like I said, I have a learning community as well, Consulting Growth Hub. And you want to, this is a more advanced concept, but you should think about, building a community, because people keep coming back for your events, and they learn more and more about you. And if they like you at some point, when they're in that 3%, they'll think of you and they'll want to purchase from you. I'll give you an example of this. Is one of my clients his name is Sar. He runs a strategy shop called Ascent Growth Partners. And, working with me, the reason he came to me was because right after the pandemic, CEOs of his market were not taking his calls. Everyone was busy, right? Like delivering on their older strategic plans. So I worked with him on creating a strategy, just like what we talked about, building a predictable system. So he wrote his book called Challengers, right? It's an Amazon bestseller. He started a community called the Challenger CEO community, where he hosts it on a platform, and he's got a number of CEOs and future CEOs that come to events, that he's created. He does speaking engagements as a result. He shares content on LinkedIn, networks with individuals, and then they reach out to him, and he's on various panels. All this has taken time, right? It's taken time to get there, but now people know him, and he's building his brand as a thought leader. And so here are the results that he got. Like through this process, you can see that he's been able to engage closely with 50 plus CEOs of mid-sized and large organizations. And here's the most important bit, that despite not being a big name strategy firm, he was able to find innovative ways to engage and build relationships with CEOs and senior leaders to grow their business. At the time when he wrote this testimonial, it was 50 plus CEOs. Today, he's got about close to 80 to 100 CEOs, in his pipeline that he engages with. So you see, this stuff works if you put in the work. Like SAR is a machine. He goes out and he implements. He takes massive action. And that's what you need to be as well. You need to, if you think that you're able to help organizations, you want to go out and share content. You want to go out and share information and build a predictable system, right? And for those of you who are interested, I'm going to share with you a link to join my community called Consulting Growth Hub. All of you are invited. And what we do over here, it's free to join, by the way. What we do over here is we first of all, you get all the replays of all of these sessions. I've done about close to 50 sessions. You get to network with other consultants. There is a discussion forum as well, where I share different pieces of content that will help you grow. And if you're interested, we can even have a conversation about how I can help your consulting business or firm grow. But join the community and just poke around and see if any of the other sessions interest you. You can also, in a couple of days, you'll see the recording of this session as well, and you'll be able to get all the benefits that I talked about.